before I get into the review, I have to say a major spoiler alert for this book. So if you're concerned about spoilers, please do not watch this video. But if you don't care, go ahead. Hello and welcome to my review of the Star Wars Legends book, The Old Republic Deceived. Now, this is a really good book in my opinion. This is probably my favorite book that I've read so far that's in canon or in Legends. And I've read I think all but one of the novels that are in canon. Well, no, actually, take that back. I haven't read like 3 novels that are in new canon, and there's obviously a lot that I haven't read in the Legends. But this book, this book has to do. This is an Old Republic book, obviously, hence the title. But I'll show it on the screen in the video. But man, this book follows one of those cinematic trailers for the Old Republic online PC game, and I'll show. I don't think I can show the video, but I'll show like pictures of the guy and what happens. But this book follows the point of where Darth Malgus, who's in that cinematic trailer, the one with the breathing apparatus, it follows him as he destroys the Jedi Temple. And it's so good because it follows him not only him, but it also follows a Jedi named Erin Lanier, and she feels, because if you go and watch that cinematic, which I'll totally put that down in the description, I'll link that cinematic in the description, that trailer. But if you watch that, there's a Jedi that Malgus fights in that cinematic, who's kind of, the trailer makes it seem like he's like the leader of the people who are fighting against the Sith at that point, and that dude's name is Master Zalo. Now, what happens is Erin Lanier, the Jedi who is at the beginning of the book, she's on Alderaan, and she is part of the Jedi assembly who is having peace negotiations with the Sith. Now that is one thing that's really cool to me, is that the Sith, literally while they are having peace negotiations with the Jedi and the Republic, the Sith decide to attack Coruscant, which is so cool in my opinion. But she is on Alderaan, and when Malgus kills Master Zalo, like he does in that cinematic trailer, when he does that, Erin Lanier feels that through the Force, and she gets super ticked. And so like she pretty much abandons the Jedi Order, and she wants to go and get revenge, or she calls it avenge Master Zalo, but it's totally revenge. And it's so cool because the Sith Empire like put a blockade up around Coruscant, and she has to get back to Coruscant because that is where Darth Malgus was, and she wants to, well, she doesn't initially, when she feels Master Zalo dying, she doesn't initially know who killed him, and so she has to go to Coruscant to maybe find the security footage from the Jedi Temple to see who actually killed Master Zalo. And so she has to go to Coruscant, and the book also follows another one of the soldiers, an ex-soldier for the Republic called Zirid Kor, or as his military name is, people call him Z-Man, which is a cool name, by the way. But the book also follows this guy, and he's an ex military from the Republic, and he, at this point in the book, when we first pick up, he becomes a spice runner, and he really has like, he's a smuggler, but he's more of like, he smuggles arms at the very beginning of the book, but like, a couple chapters into the book, the people who are having him smuggle arms have he has amassed up a lot of debt because of his daughter Ara, I think that's how you pronounce her name, Ara. She was in an accident in a speeder car, and she was paralyzed from her waist down, and so he got into debt with the people who are called the exchange, who are pretty much his employers. He got into debt with them because he wanted to, help out with her medical bills. And so since he's in debt, the exchange wanted him to run Spice. So he, once you're under their thumb, they can pretty much make you do anything. And which he starts to run Spice, and then they tell him, "Hey, you can get all of your debt wiped away if you make a run to Coruscant with some Aang Spice." Now, Aang Spice is really terrible stuff in this. I'm not going to get too much into detail because it doesn't really matter. But they said, "Hey, if you get to Coruscant and you deliver this, all of your debts will be put away, and you will get extra compensation for it." And so he gets like 200,000 credits on top of his debts being cleared away. And what's cool is initially when he takes the job, he doesn't know that the Sith Empire have a blockade around Coruscant. It's just like, oh, okay, I'll do it. It's like it's kind of a big deal for him because now, like, he's taking this job because he needs the money. And so if he has no more debt and he gets, hundreds of thousands of credits, then he's like in the clear. And so it follows him, and Aaron Lanier, she knew Zirid from the war, and so she when she finds out that there's a blockade of the Sith Empire around Coruscant, she's like, "Hey, if anybody can get me through that blockade and get me to Coruscant, it's Z-Man." And so she tracks down Z-Man, and like before he leaves his home planet to go to Coruscant, like she finds him. She's like, "Hey, I need to get to Coruscant," and he's like, "Hey, I need to get to Coruscant." It's kind of a funny thing. And while they're going to the spaceport, there's another man named Vrath Sizor who is a bad dude. He was an Imperial sniper in the Imperial military, and now he's like a bounty hunter, or he's a spy. He's almost like a hit. I think he's a hitman in this, and so he is hired by the Hutts to stop Z-Man from getting to Coruscant because the Hutts want to put their own Aang Spice and start distributing their own Aang Spice into Coruscant. And this is pretty much like them saying, "Look, if we stop the Hutts wanted him to stop Z-Man so that they could get their own spice in there, because Aang Spice is it's a very, how would I say this? It is very intoxicating and it's very addictive. And so if you don't get your hit, then you start going through withdrawals because it is so addictive. And so the Hutts figure if they stop the Aang Spice from going to Coruscant, those people would go through withdrawal, and then the Hutts can introduce their own Aang Spice into Coruscant, and they get all that money instead of the people who Zirid is working for. And so Vrat Sizor finds out, that Zirid and a woman who is a Jedi is going to Coruscant. And what's like, this book moves fast. This is a short book, and I really enjoy that. Like, I've read the longer books in the Star Wars Legends and even New Canon, and those long books, sometimes you get parts where nothing happens for a good chapter or two, but this book moves fast and it's short, and I really enjoyed that about this book. I blew through this book because I thought it was so much fun to read, to listen to. I audibled it, and so Vrat Sizar goes to Coruscant and gets picked up by Malgus, and he's like telling Malgus, "Hey, there's a spice runner that's coming to Coruscant. He's gonna try to get into Coruscant, and he's taking a Jedi with him." And it was so interesting because it was just like the dude wanted to stop that spice, and so he would do anything, including going and risking his own life to go to Darth Malgus, who once you set up a blockade, it's well established in the Star Wars universe that once you set up a blockade around a system or around a planet, that nobody gets through, and you don't want nobody, you don't want nobody coming in to tell you what to do. And so Vrath tells Malgus about this Jedi, and Malgus is like, hey, and that's some Malgus, like, really, he wants to fight the Jedi. He just doesn't like want to shoot her out of the sky. It is so cool because Malgus in this, and this is a reason that, I mean, this Malgus character, this is the guy that I want. Like, if we ever get an Old Republic movie, I don't want it to be about Darth Bane, because I feel like this guy Darth Malgus is a better character to create your movie around, because Malgus is one of those Sith that believe that without conflict you get weak, you get rusty pretty much in the Force. And he believes that if you go through conflict and you are the victor, then you will understand the Force more. And so it's so cool because he wants to destroy Coruscant, which is something that's crazy, because like nobody else wants to do that. Like, he takes out the Jedi Temple and then he's like, okay, we can destroy this planet. Like, he wants to kill everybody on Coruscant, and it's such a cool thing to see, because the other Sith are like, nah, Coruscant is pretty much leverage. In this book, to the Sith that aren't Darth Malgus, Coruscant is leverage to make the Republic sign the peace treaty that they were negotiating. It's like, wow. And Darth Malgus is like, dude, let's destroy this place. Like, we're the Sith, we don't care about peace. And that's something that's really interesting to me, and this is why I would like a book or a movie about Darth Malgus and these events more than something like Darth Bane, because I've read the trilogy of Darth Bane. I probably should review that eventually, but I've read the trilogy of Darth Bane, and like, Darth Malgus to me is more interesting because Darth Bane he was at odds with the other Sith, but he, like, in that trilogy, he like takes out the other Sith within the first maybe the first 2/3 of that first book. And so you have like 2 books without any other Sith, whereas Darth Malgus, he is set up to where he is at odds with both the Jedi and the Sith, which is very interesting because all throughout this book we get Darth Malgus, and he says that he had this vision on Korriban, which is now changed to Moraband in the new canon, but it's the Sith homeworld. And on Korriban, when he was, he had a vision when he was there, and the vision that he had was the entire galaxy burning. And it's so cool because at the very end of this book, I mean, spoilers, but at the very end of this book, we get absolutely that this guy is going after not only the Jedi, but he is absolutely going after Sith. At the prologue, the epilogue of this book is him going after Lord Adras, who is another Darth in the Sith Empire, who is effectively above him in rank, and he goes after Lord Adras and he takes him out, because this guy, like, Lord Adras is one of the guys who was like, know what, no, the Emperor is good, the Emperor wants this, we're attacking Coruscant to make it leverage for the peace treaties. And it was so cool to see. Yeah, we knew that from the Darth Bane trilogy, we knew that the Sith always kind of took out one another. They always were at odds with each other also, not only just with the Jedi, but they were also at odds with each other. And this, I'm telling you, this story of Darth Malgus is so good. Like, this book was so much fun for me to listen to, and I had so much fun just absolutely blowing through this book, because you have great characters like Erin Lanier, sorry, keep messing up that name. Erin Lanier, the Jedi, she is on a dark path. Like, she was once a Jedi, and now she quit that. She wanted revenge. Like, she's going down the path to the dark side. It's so good because you have her, then you have, Malgus, who on the other hand, like, he quits the Sith. He quits being, part of the Sith Empire. Like, by the end of this book, which is so crazy, he quits being part of the Sith. And the book ends in such a way where you have this Twi'lek whom Malgus loves, and which is crazy to me because, like, I've never seen another Sith who, like, loved someone other than Darth Vader, but Padme died anyway. But you have this girl Alina, who is a Twi'lek, who is also in that cinematic trailer for the Old Republic video game, who's a Twi'lek who helps Malgus destroy or take out the temple. And Malgus is in love with this Twi'lek. I mean, Alina's his kryptonite pretty much. And the other lords, Darth Angral, who is also in this book, but not as big as Lord Adras. But Darth Angral and Darth Adras, they kind of use Alina against Malgus, and it's so, like, and it totally shows. And one thing that's so awesome about this is that Malgus is not oblivious to this. Malgus knows exactly what's going, like, he knows exactly the fact that Alina, the Twi'lek that he loves, he knows that she is his downfall. Like, she is his kryptonite. He knows that for an absolute fact, and that's something that's really cool to me. And he knows that from the very beginning of this book. It's like, dude, one day, this girl is going to be my downfall. And that like, to me, that's so interesting because that's something you could do in a movie where you have this guy who knows exactly the fact that if he did not have Alina, he would probably be more powerful. He would be better. He would understand more in the Force. He would be more enclosed in the dark side. He wouldn't have that weakness. And that's something that's very interesting that I think you could totally do in a movie. And what I very much loved in this book was that Darth Malgus actually, he kills Alina at the end of this book. And it's something that was like way out of nowhere for me. When I was listening to this book, what happens is Aaron Lanier and Z-Man, they get to Coruscant, and then Aaron fights Malgus, and they don't, like, nobody wins because Z-Man, like, comes in with the ship, takes her out of there, and then they go and they find some, before they fought, they found the security footage, the backup security footage from the Jedi Temple, and Aaron Lanier finds out that, hey, this Malgus guy, he's the dude who killed Master Zalo, but she also found out about Alina, and that Malgus really, he cared for Alina. And so after they have their first fight, Aaron Lanier tells Z-Man, hey, I'm gonna go find his Twi'lek girlfriend, and I'm gonna hurt her to hurt Darth Malgus, because it's totally, like, there's no doubt about it, Darth Malgus would totally beat her if they would have kept on fighting. Like, he would have taken her out. And so Aaron's like, look, I can't beat him, but I can hurt him, like, really badly. And so she goes after Alina, and she finds her at a spaceport, which is like a very interesting thing, which is another thing that lends to the fact that this book, just things kind of happen really quickly in this book, and it definitely flows, has a good pacing to it, in my opinion. And it's that Z-Man has to get a ship because they pretty much got shot out of the sky over Coruscant, and so he has to get a ship to go back and protect his daughter and his sister-in-law, I believe, because Wrath Zizor knew, like, he followed Z-Man to his home, and he was like, okay, this dude has a daughter, he has a sister-in-law. I think it's sister-in-law. It could be a sister, but it made it seem like it was his sister-in-law from his dead wife. But Wrath Zizor knew about his family, and Z-Man was like, hey, I gotta get off Coruscant so I can go and get my family out of here, because I don't want nothing. He doesn't want anything to happen to his family, and so like Z-Man's goal was to get off Coruscant. Aaron Lanier's goal was to find Elena the Twi'lek, and it just happened to be that Elena was at the spaceport, and so they both went there. They started. They had their droid T7, who was actually Master Zalo's droid, which they found in like the not the underworld, but like it made it seem like it was kind of like the sewers of the Jedi Temple, and they found T7, and he was the one who helped them find the security footage. But they found him. They had him like make a diversion in the spaceport, and so Z-Man found himself a ship, and he was like, "Hey, we can use this ship. We should totally get out of here." And Aaron Lanier was on that path of vengeance. And she got Elena. There was like a firefight. She got Elena, and she was gonna kill Elena. Like, she knocked Elena out, and she was gonna take Elena to kill her, which is crazy to me. That like this is another reason why I think that this would be such a good movie, is because you have a bad guy fighting other bad guys, but yet you have a good guy who is going to that bad, that dark side. That you have a Jedi who's going down the path to the dark side. But don't worry, this is not another Anakin where he just kind of switches, turns on a dime and goes down to the dark side. She comes back. She knocks out Elena, but before she does, Elena tells her, "Hey, Malgus," which his real name is Veritan, and Elena calls him by his real name. Like, she's like, "Hey, I love him. Just don't hurt him. Don't hurt him. I love him so much to where Elena was willing to sacrifice herself to save Malgus, which was so crazy, and it turned Aaron Lanier back to the light side. Like, hey, this dude is an actual guy with feelings for this Twi'lek. And so, it's not another Anakin where he just kind of goes down that path to the dark side. I know we've seen that before, but this one, she goes down that path, but then she is saved by ultimately her goal. Like, her goal was to hurt Malgus, and she is saved by the person like Elena, the person she was going to use to hurt Malgus, which is a very cool thing. It's very ironic to me. And so what's really cool is that Z-Man, like, he gets his ship, he leaves because Aaron Lanier is like, "Hey, you go, I gotta take this girl out," which was before she turned back to the light side. But then Malgus shows up because he knows, like, he finds out that Aaron Lanier knew who was at the Jedi Temple that day, and he finds that out, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, I gotta go find my girl." And then it was so cool because he just shows up and he starts taking her out. Like, Aaron had absolutely no chance against Darth Malgus in this second fight, and it was so cool to me. Like, sure, you have that first fight, you have that first battle, which is like, it was more even because just because Malgus didn't have that rage built up against her. I mean, he did have rage built up against her because she was a Jedi, but he didn't have the rage built up against her because in that second battle, he thought that Aaron Lanier had hurt Elena, which she really didn't, but he thought that, and so, like, his rage was just out of control, and so he takes her out really easily. And it was so cool because, like, the book tells you that he used force lightning to knock her out effectively, and the book just goes silent from there. And then she wakes back up. Malgus tells her, "Hey, get out of here," and he gives her back her lightsaber and Master Zalo's lightsaber. He's like, "Get out of here." And then when she asks him why, he was like, "Because you didn't hurt Elena." And then Aaron Lanier is like, "Oh, okay, I'll get out of here," because she knew she had to get out of there because there was a blockade of Imperial Star Destroyers, or not Star Destroyers, but Imperial. It was an Imperial blockade, and Malgus allowed her to leave because he knew that she going down this path to the dark side, going on a revenge path, effectively, he knew that she would be kicked out of the order. And so he was like, hey, we're actually not that different, because he, at that point in the book, he's like, you know what, this empire's stupid. Even the emperor, who, like, it's so cool that the emperor doesn't show up in this book, but it is so cool, in my opinion, that they just talk about the emperor, and then the emperor is like all wise and everything in this book to all the other Sith people, but not to Darth Malgus. He's like, hey, you're not, like, he tells Aaron, you're not much different than I am. You're not a Jedi anymore. I'm not part of this Sith. I'm not part of the Sith that has been going on. Like, it is clear at the end of this book that Darth Malgus wants to take out all the Sith because he believes that conflict, makes you better as a dark side user. And that was something that I thought that was just like, wow, that's amazing. But bringing this review to a close, I think this is an absolute must read if you want an amazing story from the Old Republic with great characters on both. Your good guys are great characters, and your bad guys are really great characters. Your bad guys have emotions. Your bad guys have people that they care about. Your bad guys have everything that your good guys all like do and have. And it's something that's so amazing because nobody dies pretty much in this book other than like the Jedi at the beginning of this. Aaron Lanier gets out alive. Master Zalo obviously dies, but Z-Man, he lives. He goes back and he gets his daughter and his sister-in-law away from the exchange, the people that he was working for. He goes and gets a farm, I think, on Dantooine. And so he just lives out his life as a farmer, and Aaron Lanier joins him because apparently they had a love. There was some romantic feelings between them two, and so since she was no longer a Jedi, they started becoming farmers at the end of this book. And oh my goodness, the epilogue to this book is so good. In the epilogue, we have Malgus going after Lord Adras, and it's like Malgus is like Sam Fisher from the Splinter Cell, where he's like sneaking up on Lord Adras's compound, takes out his guards, and then just calls out for Lord Adras and takes him out in such an amazing way that, yes, this is an absolute must read if you want an Old Republic story that is just as good, if not better, in my opinion, than anything like a Darth Bane or the Revan book. I've read those, and I honestly think this is a way better story than those two, and there's better characters in this one. But that's my thoughts. I want to know what you think about this book. If you've read it, tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you haven't read it, that's fine. You probably aren't gonna watch this anyways if you haven't read this book. But man, I definitely suggest you do. And subscribe if you want to, you want to watch more videos like this about books from Legends or even new canon books. Every time I think there's a new canon book that I want to read, I'll totally review it. But yeah, subscribe if you like this and want to see more videos like this in the future. And thank you for watching this one.